People who work in high-class restaurants and hotels. What is the most ridiculous stereotypical rich person thing you've ever experienced someone has done? My former boss, insanely wealthy, used to stay in presidential suites and would have any and all red removed. He was a high roller at several casinos and they made special chips just for him as a substitute to red chips. He hated the color red because when you're losing money, you're in the red. Watch this video until the end for good luck. During our honeymoon, my husband and I came back to our very nice hotel from a day full of hiking looking like homeless people. We were waiting for the elevator with another couple who were both giving us the side eye. Once on the elevator, the couple pressed the bottom for the top floor, which was the same as ours. After about 30 seconds of silence and side eyes, the woman turns to me and says, "You need to press the button for your floor," in a condescending tone. I told her our floor was already selected and she had the audacity to say, "You have a suite on the top floor?" I worked at a nice restaurant in downtown Portland and one day a lady called to make a dinner reservation for a large group. But first she starts asking all these questions about security, we had none, and how I thought the staff and patrons would handle a celebrity dining there. Is there enough space to be private? They like to be private. Would it be okay if they brought their own security to stop people from taking pictures and such, etc. But of course, she couldn't name names. I rolled my eyes, told her whatever they need to do, and booked the date and time. Yes, I was super curious who it would be and stayed past my shift to see who walked through the doors. When the big night came, the group arrived and it was no one. Not one of us who worked there recognized a single member of their party. They sure acted like they were someone, but all we saw was a loud group of douchey looking 20-somethings. They actually did bring a bodyguard who stood in the corner with sunglasses on the whole time. The only attention they got from other diners was the occasional side eye because they were being such rude and obnoxious. Shock of shocks, they treated our staff horribly and tipped even worse. We'll never know who that person thought they were. I don't even work at that nice of a restaurant, but last month I got chewed out over the phone because some lady left her baby's actual silver spoon on the table and we didn't know where it was, so obviously one of us had stolen it. I worked for a resort in the Seychelles for 4 years. I have hundreds of stories which would fit this post, but one that stands out was a very wealthy Canadian family who stayed at one of the private residences for a couple of weeks. They brought their own staff including 2 personal chefs, but also asked for a hotel chef to assist their team with prep and local ingredient knowledge. A chef I was friendly with was selected to spend the 2 weeks with them. One day, another member of their staff came down to one of the restaurants and purchased 2 bottles of wine for 11,000 euros plus each. Now we had far more expensive bottles on the list, but this was still a notable sale, and later that night, I asked my mate what they had cooked to accompany the wine. Turns out they had poured both bottles into the pot while making a coq au vin. Worked at a grocery store in uppity Gold Coast, Chicago when I was a teen. We sold soup for lunch, and when bagging them, we put it in a paper bag followed by a plastic bag to make sure it's secure. Lady buys a soup. I proceed to bag the soup and she says, "No, I'll just put it in my bag." I say, "Ma'am, are you sure?" Mind you, she has a Louis Vuitton bag that looks brand spanking new. 15 minutes later she comes in raging that she has minestrone all over her Louis Vuitton and demands to speak to a manager. SMH. I've got a pretty good one. I work at a luxury property in California, and we had the co-founder of a large payment processing company stay with us a while back. He only liked to sleep on his own bed, so when he woke up that morning, he paid a team to load his bed into a truck and have it delivered to our property. We then removed the bed in his luxury suite and set up his bed that his team had brought us. He only stayed with us one night and the process was done to send the bed back home the following day. It kind of blew my mind that he went through all that trouble just so he could always sleep on his own bed. To each their own, I guess. Worked in a fancy smancy lobster pounder restaurant on the water where had a lot of outdoor seating. These very wealthy people come to eat and demand a table outside for dinner. Now it's just before sundown in the middle of summer in Maine and we're on the water, so mosquitoes are definitely not scarce. These people sit down, order a $200 bottle of wine, a massive lobster each, and some appetizers. They seem to enjoy the meal up until the sun sets and the bugs come out. These people were not happy and complaining about it, and the shitty restaurant not paying for mosquito spraying. The waitress gets a couple candles to light and asks if they need anything else, and those motherfuckers asked her to stand next to them with a flashlighter. She laughed thinking they were joking, and the man said whatever happened to good service nowadays. They also left 0 tip on a $350 bill. Had a business dude rent one of our apartments for 3 weeks at this fancy hotel I worked at. Second day, we get a maintenance call. He wants us to remove the TV. Not replace it, just remove it entirely. As housekeeper, I head up with maintenance to clean up any mess from the move, and got to see it all. The guest is removing our TV because he's gone and bought his own, bigger, flasher, brand new. There was also a brand new. I cleaned up the packaging. PS4, he was hooking up to his new TV. We had no idea if this was against policy, so we left it. Guy's paying for the room. He's not broken anything. Jeff. At the end of his stay, he leaves it all behind. Maintenance dude took the TV. Easier to smuggle out the service in transfer him. I took the PS4 and sold it for more traveling funds. Thanks, ridiculously rich business dude. You paid for 2 weeks of traveling. I play poker for a living, and every now and then some rich guy will sit down and start going all in every hand for $300 to $500 without looking at his cards. One day I was in a game where a guy was betting $1,000 to $3,000 without looking at his cards. It was insane to me, but for him, I guess it wasn't that much money. This is more in the vein of a rich stereotype, but my dad used to work as a valet for Lars in downtown Chicago. Some pretty well-known football player came in about 15 minutes before closing with a group of friends. He made them reopen the kitchen so they could all have steaks. Then they stayed for almost 2 hours after close, being really loud and obnoxious and rude to most of the staff. He also tipped everyone horribly, especially considering everyone had to stay later because of him. In contrast to this guy, there was another NFL player that came in that was not as famous. He was extremely kind to everyone and tipped amazingly. He didn't drive there, so there was no car for my dad to get, but he asked my dad if he could hail him a cab, and when he did, he gave him $100 just for that. So I've played at a lot of these venues with rich clientele, but the one that takes the cake is a rich for that comes and demands we play insert pop song on the number 10 billboard because his little princess likes it. Now, while we have taken requests before, what's difficult here is that my fellow colleagues and I, professional string musicians, are getting paid by the venue to play classical music that we have pre-agreed on and prepared. My colleagues and I do not know the melody nor harmony nor even the bloody key of generic pop song number 7. Not even that, but we are not getting paid by you or your little princess, so we aren't gonna play it. Not that this makes us exactly loved by some of the venue's patrons. I worked at a restaurant in the lobby of a rather nice hotel. There was a rich dude that basically lived there. He would eat in our restaurant every night. Our chef had to hand pick his steaks from a local butcher. The steaks were f***ing massive. It was always specially prepared just for him. Every f***ing time this would take 2 or 3 bites and complain to everyone in earshot that his steak was terrible. Every time. This dude was odd. He would only drink our cheap wine that we served by the glass. However, he would request that you open a fresh bottle just for him. He couldn't possibly drink a glass of wine out of a bottle that was first opened for someone else. Even if I just opened the wine and poured a glass to the person next to him, that bottle was considered tainted to him. If you are that f***ing picky, just buy your own damn bottle of wine. Victor, f*** you. Oh, and one last thing. He parked in the handicapped spot out front, even though he is not handicapped. But because he spent so much damn money at the hotel, the managers refused to make him move his car or have it towed. There was this classic trick I used to do when seating people. If, based on the logistics, I needed someone to sit at a table I knew was the least desirable one, close to the toilet, entrance, etc., I would always make it look like it's reserved for VIP clients or in case the boss decides to come in to eat. Pretentious rich people want the opportunity to be seated somewhere special so badly that they never ask questions and go for it right away. It made my job a billion times easier back then. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Let us know your thoughts on this topic. See you soon.